Welcome to this July 1st edition of Bet. I'm your host, Erin, Dolan, joined by the fabulous Anita Marks. We have a packed show for you guys heading into the holiday weekend. We're going to be talking some Nathan's famous hot dog, everything that's going on with that, some MLB. We also have two special guests to be talking about Wimbledon, as well as what's going on with Kevin Durant in the Nets. So we have a packed show for you guys. Make sure you stick around. But off the bat, Anita, how are you feeling heading into this holiday weekend? Any big plans?
No big plans. I'm working. I host sports talk radio here in New York. And oh, by the way, there's like a lot going on, right? With the Knicks and the Nets. So never a dull moment. Maybe I'll take a minute to step away, watch the fireworks on the Hudson. But other than that, I'm going to be working all weekend, Erin.
Never a dull moment, like you said. I actually decided to take my vacation around this weekend. So you and I are thinking a little bit differently. But like you said, you'll have a ton to talk about, which we'll get into a little bit later in this show. And of course, if you like this show, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Always hit the subscribe button. We'll keep you up to date with everything sports betting. But let's talk about the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. And honestly, my stomach kind of turns every time I think about this. We got Joey Chestnut, who's currently the favorite, minus 3,000. The field is 11-1. Total hot dogs eaten by Chestnut is set at 74.5. Disgusting again. He floated the idea out there that he could get to 80 this year. Again, his record 76. Anita, this seems like a type of event, just considering that the one show we did, you were talking about darts. Is there something that you would bet on in terms of this?
I always say this, I bet if my dogs hit the pee-pee pad or not. I bet on everything, so of course I'm going to be betting on this. And not only am I going to be betting on this, do you know that 7 figures is going to be wagered on this event this weekend? That's how many people wager on this event. And Joey, of course, he's looking for his 15th win, and he's trying to get to 80. Now, I did a little research prior to the show. Apparently, and just imagine this, he practices. I can't even to eat 80 hot dogs and buns combined. He practices for that. Anyway, he's reached 80. So yeah, I'm gonna go the over here. I know the sharp money is on the under. I'm gonna go the over. Another thing that I found out on research is you wanna pay attention to the weather. So get this, Erin, when it's sunny and it's hot out, it makes it more difficult for them to consume the bun and the hot dog. Which I find really interesting. And so I looked into the weather conditions. It's going to be sunny, but the high is going to be 85. So not so bad. So weather conditions can play a role into him going over, 76, right?
74.5. 74.5. Juice to the over, though. So makes a little bit of sense.
I'm on the over.
Or excuse me, 76.5. 76. I mean, it makes sense, but I just think it's really comical
I think he gets to 80.
The way you researched. All right, a little bit of delay issues here, but nonetheless was saying with all the research that you were doing, it's very interesting to see some of the things you found out. I actually read a Washington Post article back from 2021 that Joey Chestnut, with the amount of hot dogs that he has ingested, has actually taken a year and 3 months off his life just based on probably some of the metrics that they used. But for me personally, I kind of thought the same way as you did. How do you have a coach that says, all right, today let's just down 20 hot dogs as fast as we possibly can, then we're going to take a 10-second break and do it again? There's just so many weird things that go into this. I mean, kudos to him. He obviously is very famous for this, and he found a lot of interesting stats. But personally, sure, I would bet on the over for that, because obviously you can't bet him at minus 3,000. But all in all, I just think this is one of those really weird things. When I see the clips of it surface on social media, it makes me just a little bit queasy. But Anita, do you think you could eat, or how many hot dogs do you think you could eat in 10 minutes?
The only time I eat a hot dog is if I'm at a golf course and I'm starving and I make the turn at 9 and I'm on a golf course. I know they've got really good dogs, and you always have to have a hot dog at a baseball game. That's the only 2 times I eat hot dogs, and I don't even finish a complete one. Here's a little nugget for you as well. It's really important to watch when Joey Chestnut competes. What he does is he takes the bun separately, he dunks it in water, and he eats the bun separately from the hot dog. That's a little strategy. That's a little strategy as well.
I mean, ultimately, I think I get a couple down in 10 minutes, but I only have a hot dog when I'm on the beach. I know a lot of people love to have them at baseball games, things like that, but I kind of am a beach person. When they have the stand, you go up there, you kind of get, I don't know what type of ingredients that you would put on it. I'm just, straight mustard girl, which a lot of people don't agree with. But yeah, it's hit or miss with me when you're getting a dog on the beach. But we are going to bring in Nets reporter Nick Friedell, kind of get his take on what's going on with the Brooklyn Nets. Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Before we kind of get into it, on our serious note, How many hot dogs do you think you could potentially eat in 10 minutes?
Erin, I got at least 10 in me. I got 10 solid ketchup dogs. I've been going to hot dog heaven in Orlando, Florida since I was 5 years old. I could at least get 10 down in 10 minutes.
All right, well, let's take it back to a serious note. There are so many things going on with the Brooklyn Nets and Kevin Durant. I mean, 4 days ago, we have Kyrie Irving who opted in. Now Kevin Durant wants out. Things are going crazy for the Brooklyn Nets. I feel like I'm in therapy asking this question, but how did we get to this point? What was the timeline over the past couple of days?
I feel like I need more therapy after going through that Nets season the last 5 or 6 months. The timeline is Kyrie didn't get the vaccination shot. And that's where all of this has to start, and that's how we got to the point we got to today. He didn't make that choice to get the shot to play in home games in New York City, and it derailed the entire season. In the last few days, Erin, what happened is that Kevin and Kyrie hadn't had a lot of communication with everybody involved. I think after Kyrie's comments at the end of the season in that final press conference where he said, I want to be on the top with Joe Tsai, the owner, and Sean Marks, the GM, everybody in that organization kind of went, Kyrie? After everything that he's done? So between what's gone on in the last few months with this team, the fact that they didn't win in the playoffs, the fact that Kyrie didn't get the shot, and Harden left in large part because of that, because he couldn't trust that he would be out there on the floor, that's where we landed, and that's why the Nets are in a serious state of flux now as they try to figure out what's going to happen with Kevin Durant moving forward.
All right, Nick, so we know KD came out. He said he wants a trade, and reports are the two teams that he's eyeing are the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat. How feasible is that? Where do you see him landing?
It sure seems right now, Anita, like all signs are pointing towards Phoenix. The question is, do they have what they're going to need to make the deal a reality? And that's what they're trying to work on right now, because the Nets can ask for everything. This is Kevin Durant, who's going to be 34 years old, still in the prime of his career, and crucially here, guys, 4 years left on that deal. It just doesn't happen for a star of his caliber. So what do the Nets want? They want picks. They want young players who can potentially either be all-stars now or turn into all-stars in the future. Phoenix has some of those pieces. They don't have all of them, so they may need to make some corresponding moves. The key with Miami is it would fit from a basketball standpoint. KD knows Jimmy Butler. He knows Kyle Lowry. But, Anita, so long as the Nets have Ben Simmons on the roster because of the cap restraints and the deals that are already in place, they couldn't acquire right now Bam Adebayo. If they can get rid of Simmons, it opens the door for Miami and makes that more of a realistic possibility. But right now, it sure feels like the odds-on favorite and the team that is in the lead to get this thing done is the Phoenix Suns to put Kevin Durant in the desert.
Yeah, and bettors right now are actually backing the Suns as one of his top destination spots. And you kind of mentioned that 4-year contract that Kevin Durant had signed last year, and obviously he's a superstar, and you don't really see this type of situation. So who's in the driver's seat here? Is it Brooklyn, or is it Kevin Durant that really has the leverage?
Erin, it's a partnership, and I think this is crucial to remember. The Nets, by all accounts, had a very good relationship with KD until it went really bad at the end. But there is that feeling of we want to do right by him, not only for Kevin Durant, but for any potential future star that comes in and says, we are stars first. We want to take care of the guys who represent our team well. So they know they've got leverage because they've got one of the best players to ever do it. But Kevin wants to be in certain places, and the feeling right now is that they want to try to help him get there. Now, the same cannot be said for Kyrie because, y'all, we know he totally messed up everything that there is with this team. But as far as KD goes, there is a balance on both sides, and I think that Brooklyn's front office and Durant and those around what he's trying to accomplish getting to Phoenix, they're going to try and make it work.
So what does this mean for Kyrie and Ben Simmons now, moving forward?
Anita, good luck to Kyrie because I know he wants to get to L.A., but the Nets aren't going to do him any favors. They're going to take back anything that they feel is the best offer. And it doesn't seem like there is a lot of different offers out there for him right now just because of the way things ended. The only leverage that Kyrie has in the moment is a deal could get done and he could say, well, I don't want to go there, wherever there is, wherever there may be that's not L.A. So that remains to be seen. But as far as the Nets are concerned, they will take what they can get for Kyrie and move forward. With Ben Simmons, that's far more fascinating. There was so much made at the deadline that the Nets would stand behind him. He would be a core piece of the future. It really kind of depends on what happens with Durant in my mind, because if you get the right haul back and it means that Simmons may have to go elsewhere, well, then that's not somebody you want to build around. But in the moment, anybody on this roster is up for grabs, and they'll get back whatever they can because, again, let's remember this. They don't have any picks. They moved them all to get Harden. So they need to win. They can't go in the tank machine and disappear for a few years.
Nick, all I have to say is after all this analysis, this is just an absolute mess. And I'd say have a great holiday weekend, but I feel like you're not going to get much sleep. But thank you so much for joining us, Nick, and I guess have a good holiday weekend.
Oh, Erin, I'm going to be looking at different places to live, Phoenix, Miami. You never know what can happen. So that'll be my holiday
Somewhere
weekend
much
for sure.
warmer. All right, Nick. Well, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. And Anita, let's take a look at how these odds have shifted since this KD news and all the rumors that are swirling around. So we know the Suns are one of the top destinations from him. 9-1, currently moved down to 6-1. And the Heat, another trade destination that he was potentially looking for, 16-1 to 10-1. The Brooklyn Nets, huge odd shifts, plus 750 to 35-1. That does make a lot of sense, though. And then you have that Lakers team, 22-1 to 10-1. Now, interestingly enough, and I'd read about this a little bit earlier, on Caesars Sportsbook, they were taking in so much money, 52% of the money from the time that the news came out that Kevin Durant would potentially be going to the Phoenix Suns until 8 a.m. Eastern this morning. That 52% of the money was 3.5 times more than money taken on the Phoenix Suns. So people started to back the Lakers, and I just want to talk about this graphic quickly before we even get more into the Kevin Durant situation. The reason they moved those odds is because they were just taking so much money on it. It was becoming a liability. People always think, according to the articles that I was reading, that the Lakers can do whatever they want to do and be able to get whatever they want to get. That's not always the case. So just because it was a huge liability, they moved those odds. But if you go back and you look at the Heat and the Suns, yes, 2 potential landing spots, and there could be value there. But personally, for me, I'm staying away from it altogether. You want to wait until the dust settles and not feed into these rumors. Of course, the odds makers are going to ultimately end up moving the odds because this is a liability for them. They are protecting themselves. So as a bettor, you should protect yourself and not go off these rumors and things that could potentially happen and put money into it. I mean, if you look at Twitter over the last couple of hours, you're just hitting news after news after news. These odds are just going to continue to shift throughout the entire weekend. So if I was to bet into this market, I would wait. You have a long time, many more months before the season even starts to bet into this market. And then, oh, by the way, you can bet in it during the season and the odds continue to move. So don't feel that you have to jump into this market right now because Kevin Durant might be leaving, might end up with the Phoenix Suns. There's a lot of things that can happen. Oh, and on top of that, wherever Kevin Durant goes, who's to say it's going to be successful? Look at the Brooklyn Nets mess. This is absolutely a nightmare for the Brooklyn Nets, and I'm not really sure how Kevin Durant's going to fit into other teams. But Anita, when you look at this list of how the odds have shifted, does anything stand out to you, or are you looking personally to bet into any type of market in terms of the futures?
Yeah, you and I talked about it on our podcast earlier today, and everything from Nick Friedell. I had Tim Botemps on my show, my radio show yesterday. We hear it from Brian. We're hearing it from Stephen A. Smith. Whoever's going to trade for Kevin Durant is going to have to give up the kitchen sink. They're going to have to give up the farm. And one thing we've seen, especially this past year with the Lakers, right? You can have the big three, but you also need a supporting cast because it's a long NBA season. Injuries do happen. In order for you to win, get that home court advantage, and get through the playoffs, get into the championship. So I think you're absolutely right. Again, I'm going to use your phrase, let the dust settle. See if it is the Phoenix Suns, what do they have to give up? If they have to give up Cam Johnson, Bridges, Crowder, is Ayton going to be gone? They lose all those cats. I'm not putting money on the Suns. Right now, if anything, I'll put some more money on the Boston Celtics trying to run it back and win a championship. I'll put some money on the Golden State Warriors to defend their title. And I really love what the Atlanta Hawks are doing, by the way. I love DeJounte Murray. I love the fact now he's with Trae Young, and there's still some money there, some wiggle room for the Atlanta Hawks to still make some more moves. So if anything, it's a long shot to win the title. I definitely would love to see them get into the postseason. Once that futures bet hits, I'm on that one. But in regard to KD, the Nets, where is he going? You know, whether it's the Suns, the Heat, whatever the case, my suggestion is just slow your roll, sit back, see what happens, because whoever's going to trade for KD, they're going to have to give up the world.
Absolutely. And you make a great point about some of these teams that you already know who's going to be playing on them. Those are the teams that you want to be betting into right now. One of the teams that stand out to me right now is the Milwaukee Bucks, plus 750. You know who's going to be on that roster and how they play. These other teams are just a little bit more of a gamble, but you make a great point. Slow your roll. But Anita, since you're in the New York area, I have to ask you, what would the fans be thinking of this whole potential situation? And also, what's the deal with Ben Simmons? We aren't really talking about him. He could potentially get packaged into a trade, things like that. But it seems like it's going to be a whole lot of drama. I'm from Philly, and if this was happening in the Philadelphia area, you would not hear the end of it. So what are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, again, I was hosting Sports Talk Radio last night. I hit the airwaves at 7 p.m., just an hour after the free agency frenzy began, and my phones were lit for the entire 3-hour show. And fans are calling in. They're upset with KD. They're upset with Kyrie. They've made a mess of this organization. Don't let the door hit you on the behind on your way out. But then, towards the end of the show, what happened? The news broke. Brunson agrees to sign with the Knicks. And then all of a sudden, the caller bank changes. And now the Knicks fans are calling in and everybody's... So you went from a very disappointed Nets fan base. That's really, it's great living here in New York, right? You don't just have one NBA team, Erin. We've got two, right? So it's a very disgruntled, angry, upset, frustrated Nets fan base. And then towards the end of my show, it was like, you know, it was all sunshine. Oh, Brunson's coming to the Knicks. You know, hopefully they can make it to the playoffs next year. So that's the feeling here in New York.
Based on how the Sixers are, I'm very thankful that there are not two teams in the state of Pennsylvania. But there's also another move. We have Rudy Gobert. He's actually going to be playing for Minnesota now. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I don't have the details. All the details, was it a trade? Because now, number one, I'm thinking, wow,
yes,
him
Patrick
and Towns
Beverly's
together
going. A few players are going over. I know Patrick Beverly for one.
Are they losing Edwards or Russell?
No.
Do we know? Oh, then, man, that's great.
Neither. We're not losing either.
We know fantastic. We know Gobert needed to get out of his situation. Him and Donovan Mitchell, they did not gel this season. We knew this was going to happen. But what a great spot to land. I love Towns. I think Towns is one of the most. I just don't think he gets as much respect for a big man. He's such a great shooter, especially from three-point. He's such a great shooter for his size. He's an outlier for his size in the way that he's able to play outside, inside, in the paint, shooting. So you combine that with Gobert and how Gobert is just so dominant in the paint. You know, that's a great addition to that team. They're definitely going to be an even better force to be reckoned with. That's for sure.
Absolutely, and the Utah Jazz have kind of just gotten to the point where it was a head scratcher, like with the Mitchell, Gobert, they should have been better than they were, and just things were not looking right. So I'm not really surprised by this trade. But let's switch it over and take it across the pond, Anita.
All right, and we've got a special guest. Andre Snellings joins us now on Bet. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's funny that you stopped talking about hoops to bring me in to talk about tennis. I love it.
All right, so let's dive into, by the way, where's my strawberries and cream? I should have prepared something for this segment, but let's dive right into it. As we know, the Joker, he won in straight sets today. He has not lost at Wimbledon in 5 years. So no surprise, right? He's favored minus 200. Those are some hefty juice to lay on him to, of course, win Wimbledon. Is there anybody out there that you feel can pull the upset?
So here's the thing. Most of the players that even have a chance against him on grass are not playing in this tournament due to injury. The only one that I think has a shot at it is Rafa Nadal, if he can really find the range on his forehand that's been lacking so far in the tournament. But even so, Joker will be the favorite even over him. So even with all that juice, I think the Joker may be the safe bet to win this tournament.
And you mentioned Rafa Nadal, and he's won every match so far, but he's also lost a set in each of those matches. Now, he's still a big favorite, minus 700 in his third round match. How would you play this?
Yeah, he's going up against Sonego. Rafa should be better. Again, he's trying to find his game. If I were going to bet, I wouldn't go with the minus 700. I would pick one of the handicaps. I think they have Rafa giving up 6.5 games at about, almost even money. So I might go that route, or I might look at trying to estimate exactly how many sets this goes. The consensus prediction so far is Rafa winning in 4. So if you took Rafa to win 3-1, that's plus 270 right now. So those are 2 angles to try to make up some of that juice.
All right, so one of the most exciting matches to look forward to in the third round is Kyrgios going up against Tsitsipas. Now, Kyrgios, is favored minus 140, but we know Tsitsipas, top 5 player in this matchup. Who do you have?
This should be the match of the tournament so far. If Kyrgios has his head on straight and is focused on the match, I'd have him favored against everyone but maybe Rafa and Joker. The question is always, is he focused? He won his last match in straight sets and said he was doing it to prove a point. He wanted to remind people that he's good. The question is, has that point been proven? If so, we don't know what version of him we'll get next round. So I would lean towards Tsitsipas. He's not historically been great on grass, but he's been playing much better this season. And he's a little bit of a safer bet. I know what to expect from him. And with him being a little bit of an underdog, maybe I will take the 1.5 games that they're offering in the spread and go with Tsitsipas in what should be an electrifying match.
And over on the ladies' side, Iga Swiatek has improved her consecutive match wins to 37. Last week, when we previewed this, you had said you weren't sure how she was going to hold up on grass. So is she the player to beat now?
She was always the player to beat, even with grass being her weakest surface. What I was saying was that coming into the tournament, she was essentially even money versus the field, and I thought that might have been a little strong for someone who has some question marks on the surface. And even though she's winning, she's continued her streak. In her last match, she went 3 sets, and it was 6-4 in the third, so it wasn't exactly a dominating performance. Last week, I said that I really like Ons Jabeur, and she was at plus 1,000 at the time. She's really dominated her first 3 matchups. She's up to plus 350, but I still like her as my pick for this tournament, but Swiatek is right there.
All right, so Coco Gauff, as we know, she gets better as the tournament progresses. Opened up 10-1, she's now 9-1, but we do know she lost in that French Open final. Can she win on this surface?
She has the game to beat Swiatek on grass. Swiatek, as we just mentioned, she's much stronger on clay than on grass. Whereas with Coco, it's about the same. Her win percentage on the 2 surfaces is about 70-71%. They're pretty equivalent. She's really worked on her serve. She has the fastest serve in the tournament thus far, and she's hit it twice at 124 miles per hour. So that plays well on the grass. So it's possible. I still have Jabeur and Swiatek as the 2 favorites, but I've got Coco right behind them. And at plus 900, that's worth considering for those that have Coco Mania.
Andre, thank you so much for joining us on Bet. I'll be eating my strawberries and cream and winning some money. You previewing what we need to do over the weekend. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, Anita, let's switch it over to Major League Baseball. There are 15 games on the board today. This morning when we were on Daily Wager, I tossed to you. You gave me a plethora of plays, so I expect that here as well. What's some of your top plays for today?
Well, our producer Weimer told me I could only give you one. Well, actually, she said we can only we can only focus on one game. So I'm gonna give you the Mets. That's why I'm wearing Pete Alonso's shirt. All right, so I'm going Mets on the run line. I'm going first 5 over 2.5 runs. Going up against Odo, who's pitching for the Rangers. I'm going over 4.5 hits for him and over 1.5 walks as well. Listen. This is a Mets team. They're 21-7 at home after a loss. They're back at Citi Field, and they need to get back into the win column. Let me tell you, because the Braves are coming after them. Bassett is on the bump for them tonight, 3.23 ERA. He knows this Texas lineup because of his time pitching in Oakland. And as I said, Odo, he's got a 5.53 ERA. He's just coming off of COVID, still not 100%. And the Mets bats are great against right-handed pitchers. So that's the plethora of my Mets plays. Obviously, that's the game I'm going to be watching tonight.
Plethora of picks under one game, which she still didn't understand the assignment, but gave you good plays. So make sure you bet some of those today on Caesar Sportsbook. Now, I'm going to go to the other New York team. We're going to go to the Yankees versus Cleveland. Yanks are on the road. And as we know, they have just been unstoppable lately. I mean, as we know, they're now currently also the World Series favorite. Makes a lot of sense why. And Aaron Judge just can't stop hitting home runs. We'll have long ball, long shot in just a minute here. But for my play, I'm going to go for any run in the first inning. Yes, that's currently -110. And when you look at who's going to be on the bump for the Cleveland Guardians, you have Aaron Savali, and he has a 7.2 ERA. The last time that these two teams met with him on the mound was back on April 24th. And they actually had Anthony Rizzo homer in the first inning, sending home Aaron Judge as well. And then he went on to allow a run in the first inning in the next 3 games. So in his past 7 starts, there has been a first inning run scored for the opposing team in 4 of those. He's just not a great pitcher. 7.2 ERA. When you're going against a team like the New York Yankees, they're going to be able to start off hot, get some runs in that first inning. So that's how I would play that New York game. But again, just one play for me because I understood the assignment. But nonetheless, Anita, let's switch it over to long ball, long shot. Are there any people, or multiple people at this point, I should honestly assume, that will be hitting a homer today?
I'm wearing the dude on my shirt, and that's Pete Alonso. Man, I'm going to go back to that Mets game. Again, going up against Otto. 5.53 ERA, fresh off of COVID, still not feeling 100%. Here's a little curveball. Actually, it's a sinker. His best pitch is a sinker. Oh, by the way, the Mets, they are the best hitting team against sinker pitches, by the way. And also, like I said earlier, one of the best hitting teams against right-handed pitchers. As we know, Pete, he's got 22 home runs on the season. He hasn't had one in 3 days. So, Erin, he is due, my friend. He is due. Watch out. Pete Alonso, going yard tonight.
Okay, now you brought it back to the Mets, so I'm going to bring it back to the Yankees. And of course you would think, oh, Erin, why not just pick Aaron Judge since the guy seems to hit one night in and night out. But I'm actually going to go with Anthony Rizzo since he's already homered off of Aaron Savali, which I had talked about as one of my favorite plays. Of course, the first inning run for that. But I think he has a chance to get one here. He had one last game against the Houston Astros, and he's had 10 home runs so far this month. He also is second on the team in leading in home runs. So there's better value on taking him, I believe, than a player like Aaron Judge, because you can get it in the 300 range. It was plus 320 this morning. It's come down a little bit, but I do ultimately think that he could potentially end up homering in this game. So those are 2 long ball, long shots. But Anita, as we come down and dwindle, the show's dwindling down here, I'm trying to think about what do we think is going to come the next time we have this show on Monday of what's going to be the biggest surprise in the NBA. Hopefully by that, we know where Kevin Durant and all this is going to end up shaking out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's going to be, but really quick, I know we've got like a minute left, and I just want to get this in. For all the Yankee haters out there, here's a really interesting prop bet for you. And that is Garrett Cole under 6.5 strikeouts tonight. You know why? He's been a strikeout king, but the Cleveland Guardians are the best team not striking out, and by like 50 strikeouts to the Houston Astros. So for all you Yankee haters out there, Garrett Cole under 6.5 strikeouts. There you go. Got it in.
I love how you call them the Yankee haters, as if people can even hate on a team like the Yankees with how great they've been playing so far to start the season, and just some of their players obviously stacked. Wouldn't be surprised if they ended up winning the World Series, but we're still a ways from that. Anita, we had one impeccable show because the ladies, they held it down, which is something we don't often get to do. But have a great holiday weekend, and thank you to Nick Friedell for giving us some insight on the Nets, and Andre Snelling as well for joining us, giving us some insight into Wimbledon. Have a great holiday weekend and good luck on your bets.